Hello. Thank you. I am Philippe from Be Another Lab. We are an interdisciplinary collective that developed this open source system called The Machine to Be Another. We combine cognitive sciences, virtual reality, and art performances to help users to experience through their own body an old proverb, putting ourselves in the shoes of the other. I remember since a very early age my mother repeating this phrase to me. Whenever I had a fight with my brother, whenever I was facing everyday life in São Paulo, extreme poverty that was all around, whenever I was dealing with someone aggressive, with anger, she would say, if you try to do so, you may understand what the other is going through. Maybe fear, maybe frustration. Maybe this other person is actually in need. Maybe you could help. Unfortunately, what we are seeing in the world is a great inability to understand what the other is going through. We see walls that separate others from us. Some of these walls are pretty much physical. They have been blocking families on their long walk to find a place to survive and set a life again. These walls have been blocking us to see the beauty and the courage of many of them. Some of these walls are actually in our minds. They're invisible. These quotes came from a research of Pew Research Center, and shows what a great numbers of individuals in Europe, in different countries, think about refugees. The danger of terrorism, the burden to the social structure. Many of the migrants that live in Europe right now, they don't even enter in these statistics or in these opinions. They are illegal migrants, many times coming from places living under extreme conditions of poverty, or even climate change consequences. Behind this old proverb, we can say there's a lot of interconnected phenomena, like vicarious pain, which is observing the pain of another person and feeling this pain from outside. Perspective taking, which is a cognitive process of imagining and understanding what the other is going through. Empathy, which is an emotional response to the feeling of another, while knowing that the origin of this emotional response comes from the other. And compassion, or feeling for. It's an empathic concern that triggers in us the desire to help the other. Science has shown also some walls that are in our minds that block our response to the pain of others. They observe that when we have implicit levels of biases, this may block our ability to feel the pain that we observe. On the other hand, using virtual reality, some scientists start to find out ways to cross these walls, to put yourselves in the shoes of the other. They create this immersive, perceptive illusion that you are inhabiting the body of another person. And curiously, they tested with subjects with light skin, seeing themselves in a digital avatar with a dark skin. And they observed a significant decrease in the level of implicit bias. Now, I would like to invite you all to imagine with me, what would the world be like if we could all cross these walls? If we could all develop the ability to see through the eyes of the others? Would we treat others the same way we do now? Would our actions be the same? Would migrants understand the fears of Europeans? Would the Europeans that have this fear or burden, they see them as a burden, would they understand that sometimes this burden is exactly a consequence of imperialism, colonialism, exploitation, that have been feeding Europe's wealth for so many years? Could we understand ourselves as one single humanity living on the same place? Based on these questions, we developed the machine to be another, which is a system that tricks your brain's perception about your own body and help people to step into the shoes of a different person. Seeing, moving, touching, and listening through the other's perspective. From educational centers to artistic contexts or political events, we have been in over 20 countries helping people to step into the shoes of the other and experience the perspective of migrants in Europe living with no legal papers, refugees living in detention centers, survivors from war, or from everyday life when you're not privileged enough to be treated with humanity. We have been exploring gender identity, gender diversity, many aspects, always related to the narrative of the person. Some of the stories, I'm going to show a little piece that you will listen, that we've done a performance in London. It's a story of Chantal. She's an asylum seeker living in London, in the UK for over 15 years, still with no legal papers, still finding a way to, be accepted as a citizen.
The law of this country is rubbing it on my face that we know that you've been in pain, you've been in trauma, you've been, taken for a ride, and then we're going to continue where they left off. Then abuse you more, interrogate you more, restrain you more. How long am I going to be bearing these pains? But I'm not going to give up. I'm waiting. I'm fighting to get through that.
In this experience that was transmitted by BBC World Service, the journalist could see herself in the body of Chantal, while Chantal was seeing herself in the body of the journalist. From the other side of the curtain, Chantal could feel that there was a person listening to her, supporting her. Chantal felt relieved. In another story that we recorded in Rio de Janeiro, led users to experience the perspective of Maria Dalva. Maria Dalva is the mother of Tiago, a kid that with 19 years old was killed by a watchman related to the police. He was a hard work young black man, tortured and killed in front of his house without being able to identify himself. Through the body of Maria Dalva, users could feel the absence of Tiago in a family's life, the birthdays that were not celebrated, the dreams that were not achieved. A sad reality in a country where 77% of assassinations among young men happens with dark people, with black people. At the end of the experience, you actually can hear the advice of this mother, asking us to not just understand her perspective, but also the reality of so many policemen that has been killed in the drug war, making it so clear to us how senseless is the war against drugs in Rio, the way that is conducted right now. Maria Dalva's compassion advice is actually scientifically correct. Compassion practice have been shown our way to not just relieve the pain of the others, but to increase our own well-being as individuals and as a society. The experiences with the machine to be another do not frame only pain. We have collected several beautiful stories about love, friendship, memories, dreams. But even when there is a sad story, you can always find amazing and inspiring examples of people that guide you, pointing to a potential action that you can take. Actions very simple, like understanding a problem through a broader perspective. Actions that may help people to go a little bit beyond. People like Maria, one journalist from El País that went to Rio de Janeiro and swapped bodies with Luis Claudio, a young, sweet man living in very, very hard conditions in a favela. She was so touched that writing this story was not enough for her. So she actually personally engaged and talked to a lot of people and managed and helped him to find his first job, helping him to support his kids. This methodology that we have been using over 4 years, now it's being applied for addressing integration between migrants and Europeans in Europe. Through stations of the machine to be another in libraries, cultural centers, civic centers, we will let users to access an archive of life stories with different perspectives, and also to swap bodies and narratives in real time. Besides understanding each other's perspective, we're also connecting with local grassroots institutions that will facilitate the engagement into concrete action. So we do all this work because we truly believe that when you put ourselves in the shoes of the other, we already are creating a social change. We already are creating a society that is at least a little bit more fraternal, able to take simple actions, to hold clearer opinions. That can actually help to change the life of many people in need.